Arsenal smashed Man City yesterday, beating Pep Guardiola's side 5-1, but how did they do it? Hello and welcome back to INMR, where in today's podcast I'm going to be explaining the tactics behind Arsenal's massive win over Manchester City. Arsenal won this match comprehensively and deservedly so, but it was the swagger in their play that stood out. The flicks and tricks in that second half was delighting the home supporters, who watched their teenage talents beat Pep Guardiola's four-time champions. So let's get straight into the analysis, starting off with Arsenal's youngsters. After a sluggish first half in which Arsenal received some criticism for failing to show enough intensity against a Man City side who have struggled at times, the second 45 minutes showed the gulf between the two sides. The contrast in age really stood out at the Emirates. The buzzing excitability of Lewis-Skelly and Nwaneri, who both got on the score sheet, drove Arsenal on, whilst Man City's older heads seemed to symbolise how tired and dejected Guardiola's team have become. Of course, that isn't just down to age, but it's a good representation of where these two sides are currently at. Lewis-Skelly showed tenacity in challenges, and Nwaneri's late goal indicates that Arsenal have a freshness that will serve them well in the title race. After this 5-1 win, the 6-point gap to Liverpool doesn't look quite so big. This fixture has been spicy for a while now, but it was ramped up significantly when the two sides met in September. Today's match was evidence that the players took things personally in that game and that they hadn't forgotten what was said and done in that 2-2 draw. Gabriel, whose scrap with Erling Haaland in the reverse fixture culminated in the City striker throwing a ball at him, celebrated Arsenal's opener on Sunday in front of Haaland. And certainly Guardiola's team will have been riled up by Gabriel's celebration and Lewis-Skelly's too. Lewis-Skelly's celebration summed up his supreme belief, not to mention his quick rise in the Premier League. He mimicked Haaland's celebration after scoring Arsenal's third, a response to Haaland telling Lewis-Skelly he didn't know who he was after the match in September. Lewis-Skelly didn't just get the goal though, he was fantastic throughout the entire game. He made 2 clearances, 2 tackles, won 8 out of 9 duels, had a 92% passing accuracy and completed 100% of his dribbles. He's really grown into this side, and at just 18 years old he's really making a statement to the rest of the league. He stepped up so well in that defence alongside some real top names, and yesterday, even without his goal, he was the best one across that back line. A big thing that stood out for me in this game was the contrast between Havertz and Haaland, and that defined the contest. Arsenal were slick in the final third, whilst Man City were flat, and the biggest reason for that was the contrast in fortunes of the two extremes of the modern number 9, Havertz and Haaland. Havertz, Arsenal's false 9, scored 1 goal, assisted another and had a very active role in build-up play. Haaland, an old-fashioned striker with a killer instinct, but whose play is limited outside the penalty area, scored with his only touch on goal, but had just 10 touches throughout the entire match. Havertz had 35 touches, almost 4 times as many. Of course, Haaland has never been one to get involved in the build-up play, and it has worked superbly for City in the past, but in their current situation it's hard to look past Haaland's ghostly presence as part of the problem. Guardiola, however, is likely to focus on other flaws, such as City's inability to keep hold of the ball in their own half. The first 2 Arsenal goals came from sloppy pieces of play. Manuel Akanji was tackled on the edge of his own box for Martin Odegaard's early opener, then Phil Foden passed the ball straight to Thomas Partey, allowing the Gunners to retake the lead just 105 seconds after Haaland's equaliser. Man City have committed 8 errors leading to goals in the Premier League this season, their most in a league campaign under Guardiola, and there are plenty more examples, particularly in that second half where Man City shrank. Arsenal's exceptional press, as well as their ultra-narrow defensive shape, made it difficult for Man City to pass centrally without losing the ball, although that doesn't fully explain City's looseness. Declan Rice was superb in that midfield role and made a real impact in the middle of the park, up against the opponents and also linking play when his side had possession. He had 53 touches and got 2 assists, made 5 key passes, created 1 big chance, had a passing accuracy of 89%, won 100% of his ground duels, had an 100% dribbling success rate and wasn't dribbled past once. His performance in the middle, compared to City's midfield, showed that midfield as well was where the game was won and lost. Arsenal was superb, City just weren't on it. Bernardo Silva especially was poor in that midfield, losing possession 8 times. Nevertheless, it was all about Arsenal yesterday, and it was undoubtedly their best performance of the season, sending a powerful message to both Man City and Liverpool. Arsenal are simply a better team than City these days. For now, they've surpassed them. As for Liverpool, if Arteta can provoke more displays like this, and if he can channel the youthful energy of Lewis-Skelly Nwaneri into a higher tempo second half of the season, then Arsenal might just make up the gap at the top. So that was exactly how Arsenal managed to thrash Manchester City, and that is where I'm going to end today's podcast. For more content, be sure to check out my website, that's inmrfootball.co.uk. On there you can find match reports, live blogs, club updates and so much more. And if that's not enough, INMR is also on X and Instagram, so you can follow me on both of those platforms for more daily football content. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.